In today's podcast, we will talk about wisdom and understanding and how the two of them can help us connect to God and also hear from God. I am your host, Dexter Snyder, and welcome to the podcast, Hearing from God. What if I told you that you could hear from the Lord, and part of that connectivity, part of hearing from God is understanding the difference between wisdom and understanding and how to apply that to our everyday life. Wisdom and understanding. Well, we're in the season of Lent or Lenten, and so we are navigating through how we can better connect to God. It's that 40-day period of time. We've talked about what 40 means. It's this bringing together or this culmination of time and space and energy that applies itself to understanding of something, to growth in some way. And so we are taking this section of 40 days, Lent, the Lenten season, to really connect ourselves to the Lord. And so we've gone back a little bit. We've talked about the four worlds. And again, they're physical, they're emotional, psychological, and then spiritual. Those are the four worlds that we're navigating through. And we've got to take all 10 of our godly senses. Those are the 10 characteristics of God that He shows us, that He connects with us, that He allows us to see Him. So He's concealed within the earth, but then He reveals Himself through the earth. And how does He do that? And through our existence, how does He do that? Well, He does that in those 10 ways. And so we're running all 10 of those characteristics, godly characteristics, through the four worlds of existence so that we can gain a deeper understanding. So we'll have that full connection with God at the end of the 40 days or whatever time period it takes. It's really more about connecting with God than it is a number of days. And so we talked about the divine crown. That was the first way that we can connect with God. It's really about His sovereignty, and you need to know that God is God. If you don't get that, if you don't understand that He's the creator, the rest of this is just hogwash. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But when you understand that God is truly God, that He is built of love, that He loves you, that He has built into you the desire to love and to be loved, and then through that, we can show forth His love. Then when we understand that, I think we're truly on the road to truly connecting with Him. So today we're going to talk about wisdom and understanding, and they're very much related, but they're also very different. So what is understanding? Understanding is that sort of spiritual truth. It's a spiritual revelation or a truth revelation, truthful revelation, or something that is come to fullness, truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, right? So we understand some things. We have this depth of understanding, which is truth. And then we need to apply that through our experience, through what we know, through our discernment. Those things sort of qualify as wisdom. And again, they're very much related. In fact, I think you could probably say that understanding gives birth to wisdom. One of the best pictures of that in the Bible is, of course, David and Solomon, rather. David gave birth or fathered Solomon. David had incredible understanding. Solomon had incredible wisdom. I like to look at David's writing in the Psalms, get the understanding, and then I like to go to the book of Proverbs to get some rich wisdom. And in fact, one of the things I kind of like to do is take them chapter by chapter. So I might read chapter 1 of Psalm and then get some understanding, then read chapter 1 of Proverbs and get some wisdom. And really they connect quite a bit. So they're not fully connected, and not all the Psalms are David and not all the Proverbs are Solomon's, but you can get the picture there. And it's a fun thing to do that sort of does it quite a bit overlap. For example, in chapter 1 of Psalm, David basically says, hey, flee from wickedness, follow godliness, and you'll be like a tree that's planted by the waters. Proverbs, essentially, Solomon says the same thing. Hey, don't be stupid. Don't be so arrogant that even though you can see, you're still going to fall into a trap. Be wise about some things. He says, look, if a bird sees you setting a trap, he's not going to go to the trap because he just saw you set it. That's because you have understanding not to follow evil men. It's a trap. And it may seem like you're going to get advantage by doing so, but you're not. You're only trapping yourself. You're trapping your own spirit, your own soul. So you see the understanding in Psalm, but you see the wisdom in the book of Proverbs that really connect together to show us the glory of God. Now, Solomon, remember, had the understanding to pray for wisdom. So in this vision he had, he was talking with the Lord and he was praying, and God said, what do you want? And Solomon says, I would like some wisdom. And then God said, because you didn't ask for gold or silver or longevity of life, I'm going to make you the wisest among men. So we know that Solomon had all of this great wisdom. And you can see that in the book of Proverbs over and over again. You see just this wisdom pouring forth. And of course, there's a chapter for every day of the month in the book of Proverbs. So a lot of people like to read a chapter a day. And in doing so, they're rebuilding their mind and do that month after month after month. And I'm telling you, you will gain some wisdom. David, on the other hand, had incredible understanding. If you read through the book of Psalms over and over again, David is talking about what it means to be a part of creation, to be a part of creation. It's like that David could sense that the world was created. He understood that the world was created by God and connected to God, that God was concealed in it. And so he would go outside and he would see incredible things. And he always connected those things to God. And it didn't matter if it was good or bad. It didn't matter whether it was in a season of sin or a season of victory. David had this connection to God. He connected to the Lord in an incredible, incredible way. I think he started by seeing nature. So most of, or a lot of his Psalms deal with nature. So like a tree that's planted by living waters or by waters, you're not going to be moved if you're steadfast, if you're in love with the things of God. It means even in the season of drought, you're still there by the waters that are full of life. In good season and a bad season, he had this understanding. I'm this solid tree. I'm not going anywhere. I'm planted by this living water that's not going anywhere. And just because the world comes at me and it comes hard sometimes, and it comes fast sometimes, but just because it's coming at me and it's constantly changing, just because I change, I do things that I shouldn't do, or I do things well. None of that really matters in the grand scheme of things because I'm rooted in the things of God. And so, yes, they have consequences, they have rewards, but the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, I trust in the Lord. I'm going to do my best to trust in the Lord. And if I fail, I need to pick myself up and say, okay, God, I was wrong. I trust in you. Help me get it right. That's the point that each and every one of us need to be at. Father, we understand that this is yours. There is a psalm that David wrote. It was a psalm of the Messiah, really. And there's this great connection that David has with the Messiah. It's a little bit tricky to understand in Jewish culture is very much more understandable because that is their way of thinking. They connect the dots. They connect Adam to David. And so there's even a belief that their souls were essentially created and that David's soul is connected with the Messiah. So much so that one sense is that Adam, after he had sinned, was given 1,000 years to live. And because of Adam's incredible need and desire to help humanity after he had failed humanity, He wanted to help in the process of salvation or the messiahship. And David's soul was so precious and so beautiful that it might not have even been able to be born. This is one thought, one midrash. And so Adam, who was given 1,000 years to live, said, well, I'll give 70 of my years to David so that he can. So Adam only lived to be 930 and David lived to be 70 years. That adds up to 1,000. But the point is that they were that connected. Adam, David, David, the second Adam or the Messiah. And so with that connection, David and the Messiah just go hand in hand, and they have essentially the same heart. And he has a psalm that he dedicates really to the Messiah unknowingly, but he talks about some of the things that the Messiah talks about. And in one place, of course, it speaks of the idea that really that there's going to be this painful anguish. There's going to be this what we know as the cross. There's going to be this triumphant tragedy, if you will. And at one place in that, and there's a lot of pictures of the cross in that, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as it gets closer to Easter. But at one point in that, he says you got to trust in God. And the word for trust there is really the Hebrew word for roll. And it's most often used like when you roll a stone, when you roll away a stone, like at the resurrection, when the stone was rolled away and Christ was triumphant. He overcame the tragedy of sin, death, hell, and the grave. To roll, it also means to roll your burdens over to God. It's the idea that we are going to give everything over to the Lord. If you're a tree planted by these living waters, you trust in those waters. They're life-giving. And so you're not moving away from those things. And it always comes back to that, well, you're in the season of drought. Doesn't matter. I've got the living water. Well, maybe there's pestilence and it doesn't matter. I've got the water. Maybe you're coming close to death, physical death. And this doesn't matter. I'm connected to the living water. So he had this ability to roll the turbulence of life, if you will, the winds of change, the seasons of change, over to the Lord. He rolled them on to God. And so no matter what he was going through, he was able to roll that over to the Lord. There's an occasion or two where he says, why so downcast, O my soul? Why is my heart so heavy? Why am I so troubled? Why is my mind going on and on and on? And why is it captivated by things I can't control? And why do I worry about things? Why do I fret? Why so downcast, O my soul? And then he would just catch himself as if he was rolling those burdens to the Lord. Trust in God was his conclusion. Trust in God. I'm planted by the tree. I'm planted by the water. Trust in God. If you were to, let's say you were to get called into the office, your boss wanted to talk with you, but it was 3 or 4 days away. But you couldn't help but wonder, what is this good or is this bad? Is this something that is going to be life-giving or maybe perceived as life-taking? And the idea is that I'm going to roll it over to the Lord. I'm not going to worry about it. Not going to wake up at 2 a.m. and think about it for 30 or 40 minutes or maybe an hour or two. I can't get back to sleep. I'm going to say, you know what? Why so downcast, O my soul? Trust in God. I'm going to trust in the Lord on this. But it could be that God's teaching you something. It could be that he wants to bless you with something else. It could be that you're going to go through a season of suffering, but all those things are laid at the feet of God. I'm laying these burdens at your feet. I trust that no matter what it is that you're doing in my life, it's to help me. It's to cause me to see a greater presence of you. It's to help me to hear from you. And if you do that, you are truly hearing from the Lord. You are receiving the message from God. The message is really the point, isn't it? If God is the message, in the beginning was the Word, the Logos, the message, and the Word was God, the message was God. If that's true, then don't we want to receive that message? When you get the message, you're hearing from God. When you're able to roll those things over to the Lord, you got the message. If you got the message, you're hearing from the Lord. I got up this morning and the sun was just starting. Actually, the sun wasn't up just quite yet. And after I kind of got ready and then I peered out the window, the sun was just starting to come up, just starting to shine its beautiful rays, reflecting off the swimming pool. We just opened up our swimming pool. It's way too cold to swim, but I just love to have the water and the fountains flowing there. So that I could hear the fountains flowing. I could see the living waters flowing, if you will. It's chlorine and tap water. It's not all that life-giving, but you know what I'm saying. And then I could see the sun beams, the light begin to shine and make dancing on the water, just making beautiful melody, if you will, harmonies of light. The prism of colors were coming up off the sky and off the water. I could hear the breeze blowing and the birds singing. Everything was just praising the Lord. I could hear and sense that God was in creation. And I had no choice but to join in. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God. You just know that He is God. And when you do that, when you sense that, when you connect with God, because you have an understanding that this is God, and you have the wisdom to apply that and join in and praise, then you're getting the message. You are one with God, one with His creation. He's working all things together for your good. This is the day that the Lord has made. Go rejoice, be glad in it. Discover what God has for you this day. Know that He is working things together for your good. Whether you're in a season of droughts, doesn't matter. You're still the tree planted by the living water. Maybe you're in a season of pestilence or sickness, doesn't matter. God's there. He's got you. Despise this moment. Look to it. Say, God, what are you teaching me? How are you connecting me more in a deeper way with you, more powerfully to you? God is truly moving and He's speaking. And if you're listening, you'll catch every word. And when you do that, when you understand that you're connected with God and you join in to the worship with the worship of all of creation, then you are hearing from God. That's our hope, that we continue to connect with God through His divine crown, His sovereignty. To fear the Lord is the beginning of understanding. That's where it starts. But then the understanding comes in, and then the wisdom. Understanding gives birth to wisdom. Sovereignty, knowing that He is sovereign, gives way to understanding things in a greater way. God is in charge of everything. He is sovereign. And so now I understand that all things do fit into His plan. Now help me to take those things that I understand and apply them, discern and use them in a skillful way in my life. That's wisdom. We're beginning to connect with God. We're hearing from the Lord. He's moving through those four channels of existence, those four worlds of life, the physical, the emotional. It's an emotional time when you really connect with the Lord. It can really move you. It's physical. It causes you to want to do something, to praise, to go share, to go shout, to give Him glory, to serve Him, to serve others. We connect with God in a psychological way or through our thoughts. through our intellect. It becomes a very spiritual manifestation. That's the four worlds we live in. That's the existence that we have. We connect those things with God. And when we do that, we've truly heard from the Lord. We get the message. Message is God is love. He's created all things through love. He's designed you from love, and He's encouraged you to love. You do that today, you're hearing from the great and mighty God. We thank you so much for being a part. As always, subscribe, like, share, tell others about the program. We just want to keep on reaching folks and trying to help people hear from the word of the Lord. Bless you. Have a great day.